Welcome everybody to tonight's episode of Profound States. I'm your guest, Mike Beaver, and our guest speaker tonight is Sharon Sananda. I'm going to leave my glasses on just for a minute here so I can read her bio, and then I'll take them off. Sharon is in service as a modern-day mystic with a successful practice as a psychic medium, intuitive, and spiritual counselor. She's a teacher and student and facilitator of various metaphysical courses and classes. She's a guide and way shower for the New Earth and the founder of the Kumara Academy of Transformation and Light Journeys Metaphysical Fairs. So that's your bio. Feel free to add to that bio as much as you like, if anything.
Oh, well, there's lots. Yeah, I mean, that's just a little short synopsis of what I enjoy doing
Well,
with
when people ask you about yourself, what do you
mhm,
usually tell them? And you just want to give them the 15-second
50 second.
the 15-second elevator intro. You're going up an elevator. Who are you? What do you
Yeah.
what do you
Well, now
tell?
that I do this full time, I have no compulsion telling people that I am a psychic medium and I'm also a hypnotherapist and I specialize in past life therapy and I help people find their true selves and get through and to heal whatever is helping to help people heal. Whatever is getting in the way, any blocks or anything like that, getting in the way of moving forward in life. And I also help people connect with crossed over loved ones, spirit guides, those types of things. Yeah. And
So what do you do more than anything else?
I do sessions for people. I also teach courses. Those are my main, my main, what my main practice is all about.
So you do past life regressions. Do you do
Mhm.
future life progressions?
I do future life if someone wants to. Yeah, that
And
doesn't come up
so
very often. Uh-huh.
do you take people between lifetimes?
I have. Yes.
And but what do you typically you tell them to go back to the event that caused whatever, right?
I
When they
don't
did
tell
heal.
them to do anything. I leave it up to guidance. I also do readings with this as well, where I help people move into the space of the, I guess, the beginning of where there was trauma for someone in another lifetime that was not healed at that time. And I've found that we uh, we have traumas that are not unresolved in other lifetimes, and if they're unresolved, then we bring through the same type of experience so we can resolve it sooner or later. Because I see lifetimes as like pearls on a pearl necklace. We're all connected. They're all connected. And so we bring through what we haven't forgiven or healed or resolved in that lifetime so that we can heal it and resolve it. And so I help people move into that lifetime that has not been healed so that they or I or us together can heal it and figure out what the block is together and help them and help integrate. It's what it is it's an integration. It's taking a fragmented part of our soul, aspect of our soul, and bringing it into to the whole, to our oversoul, so that we can feel more whole.
And so in your current lifetime, um, what was the first thing that happened to you that was odd, strange?
Okay. Why?
That you
I
remember?
would, yeah, that I remember because I don't remember. Didn't remember a lot of my childhood, and I found out why after my near-death experience in 2001. But I'd say my first strange memory in real time during that time was when my grandfather passed, and I was, how old was I? We lived with my sister and I lived with my grandparents after my parents got divorced. I was, oh gosh, 9, I believe. I'd have to look up the year, but I was 9 years old and I saw my grandfather looking in the window at me, floating on the second floor, the second story of the house. And I was sleeping, and my bed was facing the window. and I was awake, and I saw him looking in the window, looking at me, and it scared the what out of me. But that was the first psychic or experience that I had.
Did he look solid or
Yes,
three-dimensional? He looked totally normal.
yes. Hmm.
And how much of his body could you see?
I could see him from the just just below the shoulders and above the waist on up.
And but he looked totally normal.
He looked totally normal.
And how long had he been dead?
He'd been dead about a week.
And what message did you get, if any?
I didn't. I was a little girl. I didn't get any message.
Didn't.
I
But
was too
it
frightened.
scared you.
I was too frightened.
Was this
Yeah.
your uncle or your father?
This was my grandfather.
Grandfather.
Yeah.
And what was your relationship to him?
We were close. We weren't living there very long before he died. A couple months, 3 months, something like that. Like I said, I don't remember a lot of my childhood, but because at that house is where I was actually abused as a child, in that house, not by my grandfather, but by another family member. So there's a lot of memories that came flooding through after my near-death experience about what went on in that house, and also because I used to dream about that house a lot as an adult, and I didn't know why.
So have you had more? I've had a lot more paranormal experiences than I have alien experiences. So are you the same way, or is it the other way, or how does it?
I think they're all the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think they're
I
all
agree. I'm
kind of
just wondering
related.
which type of experience was kind of predominates. I've been around disincarnates forces a lot more than aliens, and so I understand it's all paranormal, but I kind of make a distinction between the two because one is um, well, just because we do that, we think of disincarnates as being non-physical, and we think of aliens as being physical, but all the aliens I've seen are actually not physical either. But um, that's my story, not yours. But um, so you had that when you were 9. So when was your first alien experience that you remember? That you were okay. So even before I asked that question, what came first? Alien experiences you don't remember, or alien experiences you do remember?
All alien experiences I did not remember in real time. After my near-death experience, it opened up a dam of memories, and I could actually feel in my body. My body was releasing the pain from the experiences. I could smell the vomit because I would vomit in a lot of the experiences. Um,
You
there
mean when
was
you're abused, or when you met aliens?
well, they're connected. The alien experiences and the abuse are connected because my
Have you spoke publicly about your abuse?
yes.
Okay, and how does how do the aliens connect with your abuse? If you don't mind talking about it.
No, I don't. Um, I focus more on the extraterrestrials because they were what I considered my caretakers because they would rescue me from the abuse.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
saying that.
Okay. And they'd heal my body. I have memories during these memory recoveries because they were repressed. All these memories were repressed because they were very traumatic. I was a little girl. And as I was bringing these memories through during my meditations, during all of this was happening to me when they just flooded through in my my mind's eye, and I could feel it in my body. Uh, there was quite a few experiences where I would see these three little gray-like beings. There was a entered the scene, enter where I was, enter the scene, and there was a bright flash because I'm being abused at the time. There's a bright flash, and I see these three little gray beings, and every time I talk about them, I feel this emotion, this love and emotion. they enter the scene, and
When you say grays, do you mean they were not actually gray, but they were the insectoid type creatures that we call grays, or they were actually gray?
they weren't insectoid. They were more of a bluish gray.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there an image that the listener would know that they looked like, that you could, did they have round eyes? Did they have wraparound eyes? What describe them as best you
They
can.
had large round eyes.
Right.
They were short. Well, they were about the same height as me, but if you look at them now, they're short. And I believe because I'm tall, and I was a tall girl even, but they were about my height, maybe a little bit taller than me.
Which is?
At that age, I was probably about 5'4" or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they were that tall.
So they were bluish, big
They
round
were
eyes.
bluish gray, yeah.
Bluish
And they
gray.
had the long, thin arms, and they wore what was some kind of a uniform that went over their body. They're very thin. Their face was, it wasn't the typical gray. There was a nose, and there's a slit for a mouth, and that's what I remember. There was one that was, I felt a female, a soft energy from, who I felt like was more of a healer for me, because she would be the one I'd sit on the ship with and heal me, and I could hear her voice in my mind when she would talk to me. And I remember this. So anyway, back to where this bright light would shine, and there they are, and the person who was hurting me, he would just freeze.
He would see them too?
I don't believe he saw. If he did, they wouldn't let him remember, I'm sure. But I don't believe he saw them. He would just freeze. They did something where he would just freeze. He was static. He was frozen.
They stopped time.
However they did it, yes. And I understand that now, but of course as a little girl. But I was catatonic. I would go catatonic in all the instances, those instances. So they would take me.
Were you going out of your body?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was being hurt very badly. So I was catatonic. My body was catatonic. So they would take me, and when they take me, they
When
would.
you say you're talking about your astral body.
No, my physical body.
Okay,
yes,
go ahead.
My physical body.
Physical body.
Yeah, and they would take me to a ship.
Do you remember the trip to the ship?
Not always. Sometimes I do. Sometimes they would heal me there.
And when you say heal you, what do you mean heal you? What exactly?
They had this wand, wand that they would use, and they would scan it, use it over my body, and it would emit a light. And it was I remember it being a purple light. And I remember a smell, and I believe they intuited a smell to me that was pleasant for me, because it was like lilacs or something like that. And that's how some of the time they would heal my body. Sometimes they would take me to a small ship, very small ship, which it just looked small. But when I'd be inside, it looked larger for some. And I didn't understand that. And as a little girl, I don't understand what's going on. And again, that's why they didn't want me to remember all that in real time. The only thing that confirmed that it might be something going on afterwards, later on in life, when I was telling my sister about it, who was stayed in the same room with me, she and my grandmother, she said there was times that she would wake up in the middle of the night and see that I wasn't in my bed. So I at least, had that, because when you're having these memories, of course, you think you're going crazy, because I didn't understand what was going on. But luckily, after my NDE, I had help. So those are the.
So how many times do you think? How many times do you remember them rescuing you like that? Relatively speaking, ballpark. How many times do you think do you remember that occurring?
I have it all journaled. I would say between 5 and 10, maybe, closer to 10 instances that I
But you,
have memory of.
but it probably happened a lot more than that. You just don't remember, correct?
I don't know. Yeah.
You don't know. Okay, so do you remember being on the ship other than um, the light, the wand and the light? What else do you remember about being on the ship? Inside of the ship.
Inside the small ship?
Yeah, what do you remember?
I
What it
don't
looked
remember
like?
anything else being in their ship. I do remember it being in larger ships and being with other children. I
So,
do.
how did you get into the larger ships with the other children? Is it the same aliens or different aliens?
I don't know.
Okay,
I just remember being with other children.
you just 1 minute you're there,
Yes.
and you don't
Yeah.
remember how you got there. Is that correct?
Whoops, you cut out there. What was
Do you
that?
do you remember how you got to be with the other children on the ship? How you got there? Do you remember the getting there or just
No, I haven't recovered. I
okay?
haven't recovered those memories.
And
Yeah,
so, how many times have you been have you been regressed by
I have.
hypnosis? How
Mhm.
many times have you been regressed?
About 10 times.
And do you mind sharing who it was?
It was someone local, someone I
Okay,
trust locally,
all right.
a colleague. Yeah.
And so it seems like your ND. Go ahead and jump into your NDE because it seems like that um started a new level for you of opening to your past. So why don't you get right into that and go through that, and when we can kind of circle back around if we need to.
Sure. I've actually had 2 NDEs after my um, big, I guess you could say, the Catalyst NDE in 2001. I remembered that I had another one, and when I was 9. So 9 was the big year for me apparently. And so in 2001, I lived in San Antonio, Texas, and I will say that I was raised Catholic. I've been raised Catholic. My family was Catholic, and
Keep your fucking door open. Michael,
whoops.
the heat here is outrageous. Okay,
My wife.
flow,
Okay.
flow thing.
Yeah.
So
Fucking door open, David.
Hold on a second.
it's
She's
hard for
talking.
me to talk with that.
Michael, the heat in here is outrageous. My soul part pain. Okay, do you understand what's going on? Right now it's 18 degrees outside. 18.
Do you want to mute it, Mike? Do you want to mute? Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Michael, right out.
All right. She's gone. What was it?
Is this a good time?
Well,
For
my
bed?
wife is never a good time, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
she is who she is.
Okay.
So where were we? You
I
were,
was starting with the about the end my NDEs.
Yeah, go-
17 degrees outside, 17 degrees below. Okay, Michael? 17 degrees outside, Michael.
go ahead.
Okay, let me get that train of thought.
Your ND.
Yeah, so I was raised Catholic. Yes, I was not a good Catholic, so I was not religious. Okay, just to qualify that. So in 2001, some friends and I went inner tubing down the river for a friend's birthday, the Guadalupe River near San Antonio.
I've been
And
down that river.
okay, yeah, so you know it's fun.
Inner tubing, yes.
Yeah, we went inner tubing, yeah. And we got on the outfitter bus to come back. We had a good day. We were out there a few hours, and we climbed on the outfitter bus to go back to our cars for them to take us back to our cars. And we put all our inner tubes and ice chests in the trailer that the bus was pulling. It was one of those small old buses, right? And which seated like 13 people. When I went to get on the bus, I was the first one out of our group to get on, and I saw that it was full. And I was actually kind of turned around to get off, but they were saying, "No, come on, let's go." And people were piling on behind me. And so I just went to the back, and I was up against the back door of the bus, and everyone else got on. So the driver it was a standard gear bus. It was an old bus. So as he drove away to take us back, and as he's shifting through gears, can you mute when that happens? Okay. Do you want me to keep talking or?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You were in the back of the bus. Everybody got on.
Okay. The back door opens and I fall out of the back of the bus as we're driving down the road. I recall and I remember everything falling off the bus. I hit the trailer hitch, my back hit the trailer hitch. I bounced off the trailer hitch onto the pavement. It was 90 something degrees. And I bounced on my back off the pavement onto my side. I am on my side and the trailer runs over my head and my neck. And I recall right before it happened, I scream in my head, "Stop, you're killing me." And then it ran over, the trailer one of the wheels ran over my head. I believe it was, yeah, one of the wheels ran over my head. At that point, I popped out of my body. And I popped out through my head and I'm floating there above my body. I'm looking down at the scene and I realized that I had died. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, okay. This is really, I mean, I wasn't concerned or anything, or I wasn't upset or shocked because I realized that we do this all the time. It was natural. And I was thinking, gosh, this is really going to ruin my friend's day because here I go and we have a really, really good day and here I go and die on them. That's what I was thinking in my mind. So I was also noticed that a car and a big bus, a big commuter bus was, because he hadn't stopped yet. He kept driving down the road. He didn't know I fell out. And a car and a commuter bus were coming up too. And I was thinking, gosh, I hope that bus doesn't run over my body down there, because that would be a big mess. That wouldn't be nice. So then I started thinking about the people that were left behind. My partner at the time, I was thinking, oh well, he'll be sad, but he'll be okay. He'll get He'll get through it. Then I thought about my sister and her family, and I thought, well, my sister, and I thought, well, she has her family. She'll be okay. She'll be sad, but she'll be okay. Then I thought about my mom, who I was very close to, and I kind of helped take care of. And my stepfather died in 98. And that's kind of when things started for me. I started having spontaneous out-of-body experiences and things like that. I forgot to mention that. And was dealing with sleep paralysis. And when he died, that's why I wanted to start with, I was raised Catholic, but I did not resonate with the the teachings of you either go to heaven or hell. That's it. And when my stepfather died, who I was very close to, I needed to know that we still live on, that he still lived on. So I started reading books on mediumship, everything I get my hands on. And this was in 98.
Go back to your near-death experience when you were dead.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to preface a little bit with who met me. Okay. So I started having those types of experiences when sleep paralysis after my stepfather died, sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences. So when I thought about my mom, I felt a presence behind me, and I turned around and there was my stepdad behind me. And he intuited to me, this is telepathic, he intuited to me that it wasn't my time. Okay. And I said, what? And I intuited back, said intuitively, but I want to stay here with you. And he turned a little, and I noticed as he turned, I turned with his gaze, and there was a portal, tunnel, whatever you want to call it, opening. And within that portal, I saw my ancestors, some that I knew here and some that I didn't know here, but I recognized them as my ancestors. And they actually weren't welcoming, like welcome home or anything like that. They kind of had a deadpan look on their face, like, okay, we're here, but I mean, they didn't intuit anything to me. I just felt like it wasn't a party. It wasn't a celebration that I was home, that type of thing. So as I'm moving toward them, and my stepdad is there with me, I move toward my stepdad and we're moving. I see this huge portal behind that tunnel, and it's like the sun. It's huge and it's as bright as the sun. It's golden white light, as bright as the sun, but it doesn't hurt my eyes. And as I'm gazing at that, it gets my attention, obviously, and I'm gazing at that. A figure walks out from that sun, that portal, that sun, and he's moving toward me. And I recognized him right away. Something in me recognized him, and it's not a physical thing I recognize. I just recognize his energy as Yeshua, Jesus. I call him Yeshua. I recognize him as Jesus. So I flew to him. I flew to him because I recognized him, and I felt that I really, really, really missed him. Really, really missed him. And again, I didn't really have that connection with him because I was raised Catholic, and I didn't, in the Catholic doctrine that I was raised, my grandmother's fundamentalist, and it didn't sit right with me. So I always felt that the saints and Jesus was not the, I mean, I knew he was probably loving. I felt that in that kind of thing, but it was just something about the teachings that they were up on a pedestal that I couldn't reach. It was a feeling I had from the teachings and Bible study, and I went to Catholic school for a little while. So there he was, the one that I remembered. And I flew to him, and he embraced me. At some point, and I don't remember, I mean, it took me a while to remember this. I did not remember it after I came back right away. It took me a little while to remember. took me quite a while, and it came in just like my memories of my childhood. It came in waves. um, at some point, I'm in. I feel this as he embraces me at some point, and the time is not there. There's no linear time there while all this is happening. I felt merged with him, and I was in what I guess, or I became a part of him, um, filled with so much love and light and joy that anything that I felt was that I might have felt guilty about, or that didn't, that upset me or anything like that, was totally washed away. And I remember thinking, because I'm still not that far from physical, I remember thinking if I smile any wider, my face is going to break. Because I just felt this huge, my face was like, I was just one big smile. Because it felt so, it was just so joyful and loving and compassion. Everything you can imagine that, that we, all the good things that we forget about here, that we forget what home's all about. And so he was there and I was in his arms, and he intuits to me, this is all telepathic, that it isn't my time. And again, I don't know how long I was there with him in that moment. And I tell him, but I want to stay with you. And he laughs, which was music to my ears. His voice was music to my ears. Just him being there was a healing balm for my soul. And and he laughs, and because he knows it was a no, I know kind of thing. He then, after a little bit, I don't even know how long, a minute, eternity, I don't know how long, he asked me if I want to take a journey with him. And he intuits to me along the way somewhere that I hadn't completed what I had come here to do. Okay. And I've heard people say, well, gosh, would he give you any choice or anything like that? And even though I didn't want to come back at all, he knows me better than I know myself. And during our conversations and things like that, my soul did agree, because he knows that I would have been upset if I stayed and not finished what I was meant to do in that lifetime. Because in my earlier near-death experience, which I'll share in a minute, I actually made the decision to come back when he told me I didn't have to. So he said, do you want to go on a journey? And I said, of course, So he puts his hand out, and I take his hand, and instantly we are moving, flying through the cosmos. Okay. And I've described this before as I can't tell the difference between whether we're flying through the cosmos or the cosmos is flying through us. I can't tell if it's coming toward us, we're going through it. That's how crazy it is. So we're flying through the cosmos as we understand it, and we end up above this planet that is I recognize as a water planet, and it's gorgeous and beautiful. And he explains to me that along the way that this planet, when we're there, that this planet is one of my favorite homes in physical form. Because a lot of us here on Earth, this isn't our home, even though it's a beautiful planet and humanity's in our good space, we're really some beings, but it's not my favorite home, so to speak. And so he intuits that to me, and he says, when I finish what I need, what I went to Earth to do, that I can go back there as my primary focus for my home, because this is our primary focus here. And so as we are floating above the planet, he's helping me to remember that I can connect, I am connecting at that moment, I'm connecting with the consciousness of the planet, and I feel and am the consciousness of the planet, and I feel so much love and compassion for all the beings on the planet. I am the body of the planet. My body is the body of the planet. If that makes any sense. I am the consciousness of that planet, of that water planet. And so I can move my awareness from the water planet, the consciousness of that planet, the wholeness of the planet, down to the smallest microbe or amoeba of the planet. I can move back and forth and feel and understand and be aware of any being on that planet that I, that I have, that I can't want to. So then we move our consciousness down further down into the water, and I am reunited with these water beings, these amphibious beings that I recognize as my family. So I'm reunited with them. I have a family there. I have children. I have a mate and parents there that were very happy to see me in that point, and that was an extremely emotional experience, which he tells me that I can visit there anytime I want, and which I did after when I came back here. I would visit there in my meditations a lot, but it got too emotional for me that they had to keep bringing me back because it was it was too much of a longing. So I haven't dived into that much. In my outer bodies, though, I go there sometimes. So I don't recall what happened after that, except for being all of a sudden I'm in my physical body back on Earth in the middle of the road, and I jump up and go to the side of the road, and my friends are there. And the only thing, I did not have anything was broken or anything like that. They did take me to the hospital. An ambulance came and took me to the hospital. And they joked with me, they had tire tracks across my head because my hair was falling out, that type of thing. And I still have, muscle and ligament damage and things like that I have to maintain. And I had a lot of road rash. But it was took me a while to recover from it physically, because I have back problems from it that I have to maintain. But the memories of it didn't return I didn't have complete, I didn't have recall of it until later, and I still have recall from it because it was so profound for me. He explained to me that it was too much for me to handle at that time.
So how did is this the near-death experience that opened you up to remembering a lot of things, or was it the one after that?
That was the one that opened me up, yes, when things started flooding to the surface, because when I started remembering and being guided to work with him, with Yeshua, I promised him I would be in my room every night at 9 o'clock for meditation. And I was fasting. I was also drinking lots and lots of water and communicating with him on a regular basis. Then my mother passed too. My biological dad passed not long after that. And so there was a lot of things that I was dealing with that opened me up, and these memories started flooding during my meditations. And I remembered that I had another near-death experience when I was 9.
Do you want to?
Or the first one, I should say. It was the first one, not another. The one in 2001 was another. Okay.
Oh, so the one you just talked about was your second one?
Yes.
Do you want to go back to your first one? Do you think it's worth?
The first one was, well, it was a lot shorter. My memory of it was I was being beaten by the family member, and when he punched me really hard under my ribs, I popped out of my body. And the pain was so intense at that point. The pain was so intense. And I do remember in 2001, I don't remember any pain from hitting being run over or hitting the ground or hitting the trailer hitch. I didn't have pain. It was just bouncing around and being run over, but didn't have the pain. But the pain I had as a little girl when he punched me so hard, I remember that excruciating pain, and I popped out and felt this immense peace, and the pain was gone. I was actually floating at that point, which I didn't have any, which was different than 2001, in what some people have termed the void. And I had never heard of that before. And when I was remembering this, I was it was dark, but it wasn't dark. It was more, it was dark, but it was just a nothingness kind of thing, where I knew that this was a natural state, and I felt connected to everything. It was like the planet, where I could bring my awareness to a universal or multiverse awareness back down to who I was. And I felt in such peace, and it felt like home. Yeah. And I hadn't been gone very long, so for some reason I recognized it. For some reason, well, I did. And as I'm floating there in this peaceful state, I feel movement off to my right, and then I'm sitting upright, or standing upright. I'm uprighted, and I see Yeshua, Jesus, approaching me, and I recognized him again. And he kneels in front of me, and he's wearing a white robe, and he's just has all this light around him, and he's wearing just like he looked before, or after. He's smiling at me and kneels in front of me, and he says, "You've suffered enough, my child. You don't have to return. You don't have to go back." He's telepathing this to me. And I said, "But I do, because I haven't finished what I came here to do. So I need to go back." I said, I don't want to start over. That was one thing I forgot to mention, is in 2001, he told me I didn't really have the time to start over, to reincarnate and start my mission over, or my plan over. And I said, I don't want to start over. I don't want to have to come back and start over. And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, I'm sure." And I don't recall going back to my body from those memories either. But I went back because I have memories after that, obviously.
So how did the one or either of these near-death experiences open you up? How did that? I mean, not necessarily how. I'm not exactly asking you to explain it, but just what changed for you after these?
Well, before my stepfather died, or before I had my NDE, I was, a partier. I mean, I had a spiritual center, but I didn't. I worked as an accounting person. I worked for an oil company, worked in the corporate environment. I didn't really have any depth, I guess you could say. I was asleep, basically. There was no depth. I didn't really yearn for anything. I didn't want to know about spirituality. I was a partier. And I'd party maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week whenever I could. And still kept a job. Still kept down a job.
So you're just like an average person.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I was a partier. Yeah, and I used alcohol. I used alcohol and drugs to repress the pain. to repress my memories, to repress the traumas, and that's what we do. So I guess you could call that average.
Well, you're not an average person. You've never been an average person, but if you just take the one aspect out of your existence and say, and you focus on that, you know, the partying and the repressing whatever memories. I mean, people, how do I put this? People who do a lot of alcohol, which I'm familiar with, people like that. Obviously, each person has totally unique reasons for doing that, but the fact that mankind, or at least Americans in general, not necessarily, I shouldn't say about all of mankind, but let's go with Americans, tend to use a lot of alcohol for, if it's to feel better or to repress, different reasons, but alcohol is very, very common in our, at least in our society, correct? And that part of your life was average. I don't think you have ever been average, but as a whole, but that part of you was like most people. So I was there.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So go forward, and I know you've had the. Did you ever have an idea of who the Greys? You call them Greys, but did they ever give you a name of what who they were, or what you know, like where they were from or who they were? Did they give you any of that?
Not to my
No.
recollection.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they were obviously positive for you because they say they took you away when you're being abused. You had experiences with less positive aliens and other creatures, yes?
No, not that. Well, um, I had one experience on that came on when I was actually driving down the road, when my memories were coming up, and I don't know if it was positive or not, but it was. I do remember that it was terrifying. I was stuck in traffic on my way to Seattle, and this wasn't that long ago. It was a couple years ago. This is a memory. Where I'm
I've
on a
lived there
tape
also. I've lived there also, by the way. Go
in
ahead.
Seattle.
In
Okay.
Seattle. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm on a table, a cold table. I'm shivering, 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 and I'm in my early 20s. I know I'm in my early 20s, and my legs are up in like stirrups, like in a gynecology chair, and what they're doing is they're removing the fetus, and I could feel pain in my body. And when these memories start coming, any physical pain or any physical sensations I had, my body starts releases it at that point. So my higher self waits till I'm safe, or I feel safe enough to do it. And I feel so much pain in my lower back, like labor pains, and this face, a gray type face, and it's female. Looks at me, and I see her big black eyes, and she may have been the same being. I don't know, but I just have I know that I'm trembling and shaking so hard, and I'm terrified. And she tells me telepathically, "Don't worry, you're okay. You're okay. You are you're helping. You're helping with this." And and another gray type being comes around, and I do remember that she puts her hands, she warms up the table with her hands to try to warm me, but I'm too terrified. I'm shaking because I'm terrified. And another being is holding a child, and it's a fetus. It's not old at all. And she says, "See, everything's okay. Everything's okay." And then the other being walks away. I also so that, whether it's good or bad, I just know I was terrified.
So When you looked at the fetus, was it a hybrid? Was it human? Was it alien? What was it? Did you see it?
It was I did barely, just for a second in my memory, and it looked human to me. But I was young. I was early 20s. I was terrified. I just know that what they were telling me was this is what you helped bring in, and I haven't experienced a where I did meet I already knew her, my granddaughter, a hybrid granddaughter.
So you had, so you know it was a female fetus.
No, I don't know that.
Okay, so you don't know if it was the same.
No.
Okay, so you don't know how many. Assuming that the fetus was a hybrid, it was a very human-looking hybrid. If it was a hybrid.
Well, it was so. From my memory, it wasn't quite, all the way formed. You know what I mean? For me to tell, and it was so quick. But from my
Oh, it was too young.
recollection,
It was too young.
yes, it was very, very small, but it looked human to me. My mind was thinking it was human because it came out of me.
But it wasn't formed
It
enough
was,
for you to tell what it was.
yeah, I couldn't tell if it was a hybrid or not.
Okay,
It
so
obviously had human DNA because I believe that it was my the telepathy I was getting was that this was a hybrid between them and myself, perhaps. And because I have been told that I have children, hybrid children. Um, and in one experience, this was, I have it in my journals, but probably about a year and a half, where I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I'm on a what seems like a ship or underground. I'm not sure, but I feel like it's a ship. And I've been there before. I know I've been there before. And I'm moving around, and there's living quarters. I see some kind of a pool where people are in like a pool, and I'm walking around, and my daughter, who I recognize as my daughter, a hybrid daughter, and I'm standing there talking to her, and we're standing on some kind of lighted floor, and she has a little child with her who I know is my granddaughter. And I say to her, what has my granddaughter been learning? And my granddaughter has pigtails, her hair is very thin, and she has pointed ears. And she's shy. Other than that, she's human looking. She has larger eyes, but not huge eyes. And she says, well, let's show you. And she says, and she tells my granddaughter, let's show grandmother. I think she called me. Let's show your grandmother. Let's show your grandmother what you've learned. And so she bends down, picks her up by her feet, and picks her up, and then lets go of her. And my granddaughter waves her arms, and she's levitating above the floor.
Yeah, you know who Preston Dennett is?
Yeah, he's been on my show quite a few times.
Has he? So did you see the show he had with, he's done, he did a show on levitation.
He talked about that on my show a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a whole show on levitation. That was
Nice.
That was good.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever get a chance and you haven't seen it.
Okay.
And go ahead and go forward with anything else you feel is going to
Well,
be.
I do remember being on the ship as a child, on one of the ships, some kind of mothership where I'm with other children, and we're being taught to levitate, and also levitate other objects. And I have memories of that, and I retrieved those through I will say through hypnosis, and I felt a kinship with these children. I felt that. And there was a lot of emotion involved there with the children.
How old were you? How old were you when you were learning to levitate? And how successful were you?
Yeah, around 5 or 6. Around 5 or 6. We did it as a group. So we didn't do it individually. My memory was an individual. It was as a group. We would levitate different objects that the instructors would bring into the circle, and we would focus on them and levitate them. So we were successful as a group. I don't recall levitating, being successful at levitating myself. Yeah.
So have you had a lot of other alien experiences that you haven't talked about yet?
Oh gosh, tons.
Tons, really?
Tons.
Well,
They still continue.
How many would you like to go through?
No, I can't even tell you all of them. As I started remembering these beings, I was being visited by other beings. I had a woman visit me recently, and I even drew. I'm starting to draw them. I had a being visit me who had the pointed ears like my grandchild, and he's with 4 other beings in my room. I wake up and there they are, right there in front of me, in my mind's eye, right there in front of me, and and they're smiling at me, although he's wearing this was about a year ago or so. He's wearing some kind of a face covering, and I see he's got pointed ears, dark eyes, and he's wearing like a Merlin hat or something, like, one of those hats but it folds over. And he's wearing a robe, a gray robe, and the hat was the same color as the robe. And I feel this immense love from him. He has this energy of being very wise, but also very young. So he doesn't look like an old man. He feels young in that sense, but ancient, but also young. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, he intuits to me that he is the daughter that I visited with my granddaughter, that he is the father of my granddaughter. So he is my daughter's mate, and that he is my son-in-law.
Okay, so your daughter is his wife or consort.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
did he give you a name?
No.
No.
I don't remember a name.
And you don't know your daughter's name either?
No.
No. So go through you had so many alien experiences. Do you have any experiences you think are more important than alien experiences? Things that you think would even be more important to tell the people beyond that are interesting?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're all equally important. My relationship with Yeshua is the most important thing to me. I will say that. He's saved my life more times than I can count. And so that is the most important thing to me. And and the rest is icing on the cake, I guess, because they're helping me to remember who I am and to help others remember who they are, whether it be, and it doesn't mean that they have any kind of an alien heritage or anything like that, because I do feel that we all have star beings. I mean, from what I understand, we have like 22 alien races within our DNA and our bloodline. So, and I was saying this 20 years ago, and people were looking at me like I had 2 heads, but now oh, and that's another thing. During my 2001 experience, Yeshua was telling me or showing me all kinds of information that's coming to light now. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do. So he was showing me the future. He was showing me what was, what this shift is all about, or what's going to happen, that type of thing. a lot of it. So as things come up, I'm like, oh, I knew that. Oh yeah, that looks familiar. Oh, that's, that type of thing. Because, you know, people who see prophecy or have, and I'm your audience, and I'm sure maybe you even, Charles, have had prophetic dreams or prophetic visions or something like that, and you don't really know that maybe that's what it is until it happens. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's what I was going through 20 something years ago, around there, when I was being shown all these crazy, crazy things.
We'll talk about the shift some, since you brought it up.
The shift?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, it's been prophesized in all the ancient texts, hasn't it? That we are moving into a higher frequency. Not only our planet, but our galaxy, and the universe, probably the multiverse, especially our universe or our galaxy. And so we're moving into and I don't know the details of it other than I know it's happening. And humanity is going through a dark night of the soul, a quickening, like what I went through 20 years ago. It was a quickening, where our shadow selves are coming up to there's so much light being bombarded on the planet because we need to move into a higher frequency, because the planet is going through that shift into a higher frequency from 3D to or 3-dimension, third density, whatever you want to call it, depends on what you study, into fourth density according to law of one, and moving from the solar plexus into the heart. And some people say 5D, 5-dimensional, 5th-dimensional. I don't know. I just know that we're shifting and we're getting so much light being bombarded onto the planet that our shadow selves are coming up, and we have to take care of it, or else it's going to be really, really, it's difficult. And that's what I'm getting is is happening with humanity, the planet in general, as a collective, because as we heal as a collective, as an individual, then the collective heals. So everything that's been hidden for so long is now coming to the surface for us to see, because the light's being shown on it. And humanity is breaking their chains from this slave system that we've been bound to for so long.
So you mentioned your own dark night of the soul. Is that are you relating to your memories of your childhood abuse, or is that something else?
Well, that was part of it, but no. During the dark night of the soul, the quickening, I was there was no one around me that knew what was going on with me, knew how to handle what I was handling. And so all these memories were coming up within me, although not just, I had to go through my current life memories first before I could start working on my past life memories and heal those and bring those in. And so I was taken all the way back to Atlantis. And actually before that, from moving from source all the way back around.
So go through that experience when you went back to Atlantis.
Well, it was more than one experience, but
how many times did you go back to Atlantis?
Many.
Many, like 10 or 20 or
probably, yeah, at least 15. But it was very, very scary for me, because I remembered the fall, and I remember the Draco reptilian beings. It's hard to I could see them in the fourth dimension. I could see them in the fourth dimension around me. I could see what type of beings people were. I was seeing through the veil. I basically had one little pinky toe in this reality, and I was in the fourth dimension, I guess you say, which is where we.
So did you have your one of your near-death experiences before you started shifting, where you were on both 3D and 4D together? So your ND, at least one of your NDs came first, and then after
No, they
that,
both did. They both
they
did.
both did. Okay, so after both NDEs, you got to the point where you were on this level and the 4D level at the same time afterwards.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the work I was doing.
Not because of the NDEs.
The NDE helped me. Well, I don't know what it. I needed that. I needed that experience for me to be able to move into a space to have that relationship with Yeshua and my guidance system.
Right.
Yeah. So that had to happen.
And how did you start shifting into where you're on both the 3D and 4D levels at the same time? How did that shift where you were not on 3 and 4D get to where you're on 3 and 4D? How did you change into that?
I was meditating very heavily. I was fasting. Yeah, and things like that. What you do like on a, in a very heavy retreat. Those types of things. And
So you were
things
doing a
started
lot of
coming out.
processing, internal
I was
processing.
doing a lot of processing. Yeah. Yeah.
And how did the reptilians, the Draco or whoever you were dealing with, how were they involved in your regression back to Atlantis? How did that fit all together?
Well, I see, and it's not in a space of making any sense. Okay. I was terrified. I was terrified that they were able to read my mind. I remembered that I had recall, and it was either recall of there or recall of the future. I don't know, where these beings could read my mind, and I was afraid of my own thoughts, that type of thing. So it was something that you can't understand in our worldview. So I
Can you recall the first time you came across a reptilian or Draco or whatever they were, the very first time you encountered them? Can you recall that?
what do you mean by that? You mean the
Well, I mean,
year, or what do you
no,
mean?
the actual experience itself.
I'm not sure if it was the first time, but I do remember being in my room one night, and they were all, I felt like they were all surrounding me, and I was running from room to room praying for help because I felt like they were, I don't know if they were, uh, I felt like they were going to hurt me, and I don't know if it was because of a memory of Atlantis or because they were really there. I didn't know. I was confused. Like I say, I wasn't in this reality.
So
I
what
wasn't grounded
reality
enough to
were you
make
on?
sense of it.
4D or were you in astral, or where were you when you encountered the reptilians?
I was in physical form, and I could see them in 4D. Now,
Okay.
also in my work, in my job, I could see my supervisor, who was not a nice guy. I would walk by his office and see him surrounded by reptilians, having conversations with him.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that before.
Okay, so those types of things. So I could see people and who they're surrounded with, who the beings that were around them, whether they were fairies or mer people or gnomes or any other kind of extraterrestrial beings. I could see if they were around them, and reptilians. So I remember when I would work out at the gym, there was these guys that would work out on a regular basis. It seems like they would be on the same schedule as me, and they were there, and I could see reptilians around them. So those types of things.
So go to your first experience that you had going back to Atlantis or Lemuria, or whichever one you went to. Take the audience through that experience when you first went back there,
To Atlantis?
or Lemuria, whichever one you went
Well,
to.
Lemuria, that was a positive experience where I mean, I had positive experiences in Atlantis too, but
So you've been to both.
my first memory of it, Lemuria, was when I was meditating with the Lemurian crystal. And I had, I was brought into a
How did you know it
Lemurian,
was a Lemurian crystal?
I just knew it was. I mean, I was, yeah.
Okay, well, go
And-
ahead. Don't
okay.
let me interrupt you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So I was taken to a lifetime in Lemuria where I was a healer, and I didn't have this, not the normal human form. I was more fluid, where I didn't have any hair. I had form, human-like form, but it was probably 5D or something like that, or maybe higher. And I helped heal the indigenous people, or people that were on the planet. And I do feel like it was here. Yes. And I would help heal them with sending light to them through my hands, through my eyes, and that type of thing. In a temple, and there was some of us that worked that way in a temple, that where we would be healers, and they would come, the earth humans would come, and we'd heal them that way.
And they were normal physical humans, and you were not.
Well, that's my memory. I wouldn't say they were normal. They were higher frequency than what we have now. They weren't
Okay.
3D. They weren't 3D. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
So you're
Well,
saying
they may have been. I don't know, but the 3D could have been a lot higher than it is now.
sure.
Yeah.
So what's the highest level you've been to that you remember? Any level? Do you know?
Being with Yeshua,
No,
my
well,
near-death experience.
that's when you're on the other side. I'm talking about on this side, and how they talk about 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, so forth.
I don't know, and I hesitate to give it numbers, but that's kind of what we understand, right? I don't know, I believe that when we're laughing and dancing and singing and playing and things like that, and are in that state of joy, and are enjoying life and don't have any worries or cares, that we're in 5D.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember one day I had where I was experienced life. I don't know if you'd call it anything other than 3D. I just know that everything was brighter, and it was a different world. It's still as we are now. So I hesitate to call it 4D or 5D or something else, but it was very different in the sense that it was very noticeable and very different, but not terribly so. Not to where the world was totally different. It was just like somebody cranked up the like we were messing with my light over there. It's still 3D, but the light is very different. And when I was seeing everything around me, it was very much brighter than it normally is. And it only lasted one day. And I don't know what you'd call it, but that's just something, one of my experiences. But
yeah,
anyway.
I've had similar experiences. Now that you mentioned that, I do recall 20 years ago or so, when I was going through my quickening and all that everything was brighter. And yeah, and also it was, the universe was responding to every thought. The universe was working with you. You're in synchronicity. I was in synchronicity with the universe. I knew that there was nothing lacking in my life. I felt totally full and not devoid of anything. And I knew, it was a belonging rather than a longing, because we when we're in the lower dimensions, or I hesitate to talk about 3D and 4D, 5D the way that the communities do, because, and I understand what you're saying. It's a frequency. I see it as a frequency, whatever label we want to put on it. But when we're in that frequency of being at one with creation, right? Then that's what I believe that we're striving for and where we're shifting into as much as possible.
So we've been here for 1 hour, 19 minutes, and it's been extremely interesting. And I'd love to go through more of your experiences with aliens, but I get the impression you don't think that's as important as Yeshua. And obviously, aliens can't compare to the Creator.
Well,
How could they, right?
no, I mean that's what I'm saying. Everything is to me, they're all important, definitely. But Yeshua's that's the most important thing to me. The rest is important, but you know, and the way I look at extraterrestrials now or star people now is that the ones who come to me and help me, and I know that they're part of my spirit team, is that they're my family. And I do have lots of experiences of memories of my being with my family. And I believe that a lot of people who feel, most people probably who feel a longing to be connected to extraterrestrials or anything like that is because they miss their family, which is they're star beings. We are star beings. So it's a longing once we start opening up to those that information, you know, and that open up inside us because it's been hidden from us for so long that we're starting to open up to that.
So do you have connections to anybody else besides the Greys that you've been talking about throughout? Oh, you did mention the Draco. And you connect. How did
I don't have connection to them.
well, okay, you have had some connections.
Well, I guess if you call it that.
I mean, you have had an employer and you've had them chasing you around in your house or somewhere. So besides how did you mentioned the first time you mentioned the Draco, you mentioned your return to Atlantis or Lemuria. You didn't get it. You didn't get into Atlantis, and you didn't really connect the Draco with those going back to those times. So, is there a connection? And also talk about your experience with Atlantis as well, if you
Yeah,
can.
there was one memory I have of actually being a reptilian in that
Oh,
lifetime,
yeah, that
in
sounds
an
like
Atlantean
go for that
lifetime.
one.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one, right? And so in that, I guess there is a connection there, isn't it? But yeah, in an Atlantean lifetime, but I don't feel it was a Draco. I didn't get the information it was Draco, but more different type of reptilian, but not a good guy. Maybe a rebel Pleiadian or something like that is what I was getting, but he still wasn't a good guy. And it was during Atlantis, and
You were him, right?
I was him,
Okay, go ahead.
male, big, strong male, and I came to the planet, came to Atlantis. We were here. There's a group of us that was here to mine ore that we needed, something that we needed, that we wanted off the planet, which is pretty common back then. And I had to wear a rebreather because I couldn't breathe the atmosphere. I was actually in a facility stealing oxygen or something, some kind of mixture that we needed for our ship, and I was rigging it to send it. We were out of whatever we needed to be on the planet, whatever our mixture was, so that we could use it in our rebreathers and on our ship. So I was stealing it from a facility that we had intel about. And a huge Syrian human who actually I knew from another lifetime, from the Sirius system. Sorry, my dog's coughing. Caught me, and we fought. And he knocked my rebreather off. and he was trying to put everything back together, and he didn't realize that I couldn't breathe. It was knocked across the room or something like that. I just remember that I couldn't breathe and I couldn't get to it. And when he realized I was dying, he tried to save me, but it was too late. That I died, and he killed me. But he was what's interesting is that his name is Calrec, and I do remember his name. He told me his name, or that I got it, and he is, and this is crazy stuff. But he was a mate of mine in this in one of the planetoids in the Sirius star system.
So your mate killed you?
In another lifetime, yes. And that's what happens. What I've learned along these years is that we have the most challenging experiences with people that we are, you know, probably the closest to in our soul group, because they help us with moving through those experiences.
So as the reptilian, what did you look like? And as the Syrian, what did he look like?
I prefer to talk about him.
Why do you do that?
Because he's very good looking, very big, handsome, muscular, typical. You can imagine, if you can imagine a Thor-like being, but his hair, it was actually, no, it was about right down to here, and it was dark blonde. Yeah, he has stunning blue eyes. I actually saw him in my bedroom doorway one time, and I'd say he was probably 7 feet tall. Yeah. And his eyes are what are most really striking about him. He was wearing a uniform. It was red and white. The uniform was red and white. Now, I was also wearing a uniform as a reptilian. I've seen myself as a reptilian twice. Well, I was also three times actually. Now I think about it, in 2 lifetimes I was amphibious type of reptilian being in 2 lifetimes. One was on a red planet, and another the fish were poisoned, and there was something that poisoned the fish, but that's a whole other story. So I was scaly, dark green, and not, I mean, I was probably attractive to other reptilians, but I wouldn't
Are you
say
talking about the reptilian that the Syrian killed, or are you talking about a different?
Yeah, I'm talking about the reptilian the Syrian killed. Yeah.
Okay. You were dark green, scaly, and
Ugly teeth, the typical. I didn't have a big snout.
Did you have a tail, or you?
Had a tail, not a big one, but had a tail. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you know your name?
No.
And you mentioned 2 other times you're a reptilian?
Yes, amphibious.
Amphibious.
Amphibious type of, I don't know if it's reptilian, but amphibious type of reptile type being.
And can you get into those times when you were those beings?
One, I have a lot of out-of-body experiences, and a lot of times I'm just there, and I look down and I see myself, and 2 times I've looked down, probably more than that, and I see that I have green, scaly legs and abdomen. I have an abdomen like any kind of a reptile being, and I have big amphibious feet. But I'm bipedal. but I come out of the water. So I've had those lifetimes. I've had that awareness. In one, I come out of the water. I'm swimming. I come out of the water. I'm on some strange planet, and I'm looking around, and I see a human off in the distance, and he's looking at me. I don't know, 100, 150 feet, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I probably shouldn't stick around here. So I'm not afraid of him, but I just start moving away from him. And that's a long story what happened there. But then I'm also another reptilian where I'm on a red planet. I remember I'm in the sea, and the planet is the planet is dying. I see eruptions and things like that on the planet. Yeah, so it's that was a very, very sad lifetime.
And you pick up these, you're picking up these lifetimes when you're going out of body, is that correct?
Both meditation and usually going out of body, but sometimes in meditation where they just, yeah, I'm just there. But most of them are out of body, being projected or taken there somehow. Sometimes I go through a portal and I'm there.
So when you go to get out of your body, what technique do you use to get out of your body?
I use all kinds of techniques.
Which, is there one that works better than any others?
No, I mean, I've been doing it for so long. Actually, I teach classes on it too.
Do you remember the first time you got out of your body?
Mm-hmm.
Go through that experience.
It was about a month after I started studying and trying to consciously leave my body. When I knew that I wanted to, it was during the time after my stepfather died, and I started having sleep paralysis, and it scared me. Have you ever had sleep paralysis?
No, but I did get halfway out of my body once.
Okay.
Scared me pretty bad.
Yeah, if you don't know what's going on, yeah, definitely. But I was going through sleep paralysis after my stepfather passed, and that's what scared me because I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was dying. So I come across something on the internet that talks about the correlation between sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences. And one of the things that you can achieve through out-of-body experiences is finding your loved ones who have passed. So I thought, well, this would be a great way for me to find my dad, my stepdad. So I started studying everything I could get my hands on. I'm an avid reader because I love to study, and I love to learn, and I love to grow, and that's what my whole life basically. And so I started studying about out-of-body experiences and how to achieve them through conscious control. And it took about a month, and I read Robert Peterson's. I was reading Rill and Buellman, Robert Peterson, all the classics back then, Robert Monroe. I've actually been to the Institute a couple times. And
when you went to the Monroe Institute, did you succeed getting out of your body while you were there?
Yeah, I was already going out of body anyway.
Oh, so you were already successful. So why did you go there if you already knew how to do it? You just wanted to
because
learn
it was
technique?
more. It's more than just out of body exploration. It's more than that. It's so much more than that.
Explain.
It's a consciousness exploration. It's about exploring your consciousness, exploring all types of different realities, more than just out of body experiences. That's just
you mean you're talking about going to the different levels that Robert himself discovered.
Right. And what you can discover in those levels, and what we're doing is going within, right? So just, exploring, basically exploring the multiverse, and there's nothing better than that. We all have the ability to do that. We just forgot how. There's nothing better. I mean, it's infinite. We exploring infinity. What's better than that?
Yeshua.
And he's part of that.
Well, okay, so have you had any out-of-body experiences that kind of, if I say, tell me about your most memorable out-of-body experiences, is there one or more that come to mind when I ask that question?
I've journaled probably 2,000 out-of-body experiences at least. Yeah. So
And of all
I
the
can't,
different, you've
I
been in
can't
other
say one.
realms, correct? You've been to many other realms, or how does it, when you first get out of your body, do you see your body there? Are you in the room, or are you just somewhere
My
else?
first experience, back to my first experience.
Go ahead.
My first experience was that I did leave my body, and I'm standing next to my body in bed.
Right.
And I moved toward the door, and I wasn't afraid. It's natural. For me, it was natural. I'm more afraid of life here. Not that I'm afraid of life, but you know what I mean? I know that nothing can hurt me in the out-of-body state. So it was natural for me. So I moved toward my door, and I go out into my front room, and I wasn't out very long. A normal out-of-body experience is just from a couple seconds to maybe a minute. But when I was first doing it, I had a really profound experience where I leave my body, I'm next to my bed, and I normally don't turn around to look at what's in the bed, because sometimes if I do turn around and look, then there's nobody there. So because we are projecting what we have in our minds, right? So at one point I'm moving toward the door, and I've learned that the further away you get from your body, the better off you are, and you won't, because our silver cord can pull us back in. That electromagnetic field can pull us back in quickly. So I'm moving away, trying to get away from my body as fast as I can. I always head for the door, and something tells me to turn around and look at the bed. So I turn around and look at the bed, and I was sleeping alone at that time, and I see someone blonde laying in the bed, a blonde woman, and she has blankets up to here, and I'm thinking, who is that? I didn't know who that was, because this is me right here. This is early on in my explorations, and I think, oh my gosh, that's my body, and I had I felt no attachment to my body whatsoever. I knew that this consciousness, this light being who I was me, not that body. So that was really profound for me.
During that first experience, where did you go? How far did you go? And how long do you think you were?
I just went to the front room. That's all.
Okay. And then how long was it? How many times did you get out before you started going other places?
Wait. Let's go back to that other one.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to explain how
Go ahead.
profound that experience was. Okay.
Sure.
Because we tend to, equate our value with our physical body. And that was huge. My body, this is not who I am. My body is not who I am.
Sure.
This consciousness is who I am. So that was huge. Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, okay. So, how many times, relatively speaking, do you think you got out before you went beyond the building you're in?
I don't know, maybe 10 times.
So you didn't go outside the apartment or house, whatever, until like the 10th time?
Somewhere around there.
Where did you go that first time you went beyond the apartment? Where did you go? What did you do?
I went up on the roof. I flew up on the roof. I ran through the patio door because I wanted to go through doors and walls, which I do easily now. But I made a running start to run through the door, the glass door, and I went through the door, and I'm like, okay, I made it. Now what? And I jumped up and flew up onto the roof.
And so, if you can recall right now, when you're up on the roof, do you believe you're on the physical plane, or do you believe you're on the astral plane at that point? Where are you when you get out of your body? Are you on the physical plane or are you on the astral plane?
Well, we're not on the physical plane. We're on the astral plane.
Okay. Every
Yeah.
time.
Every time.
Okay. So when you first started going beyond the roof, beyond the apartment, beyond the house,
Mm-hmm.
where did you go?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Down the street? I can't remember. There's been so many.
So of
Yeah.
all the places you've been to, is there any place that is more higher realm, or did you go any place beyond the astral realm, in other words?
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably I don't know. I just know the feeling of where I am. I know if I can tell if I'm in the lower astral, the mid astral, or the higher astral, or whatever that is. I mean, I don't know, other than the colors, the brightness, how I feel. I've gone to other planets many times, what I feel are other planets, seen so many other beings. So, it's,
Have you gone
to
to any bad places? Dark
I wouldn't
places?
call them bad. I've
All right.
gone to some places that I felt really yucky. Yeah. And I'm trying to get out of it and I can't get out. So and all you have to do is think about your body and your back.
So you've had some slightly scary experiences.
No, yeah, well, yeah, but I wouldn't call them scary. I think one of the scariest experiences I had was recently, where um, a since I'm a reader, I had a experience with a family, or I did a reading for a family whose son unfortunately committed suicide, and he appeared to me in an out of body experience. I was able to connect to him really well, and he appeared to me in an out of body experience, and I knew it was him, and I asked for a photo, and sure enough, it was. And he intuited to me the state of mind he had when around the time, or when he decided to kill himself. And I was in this spiraling vortex that was so. I mean, I could see faces, I could hear voices. It was just really scary, and it felt like it was going to go on forever and ever, and I had to call for help. And so that was.
So who did you call on?
I called on Yeshua.
I figured, but I mean, I had to ask anyway. And what happened?
I came out of it. Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Was Yeshua there when you came out?
No, I was just back here. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading a book now from a guy that talks a lot about astral travel. Should I
What book is it?
say quantum akashic field? That's what he calls. That's the name of his book.
I think I've read that one. Who's the author?
His name is Jim Willis.
I've read that. It's a good book. I like it.
Yeah, I'm
actually had
planning
it
on
on
interviewing him soon if he still
cool.
wants to.
Yeah.
Anyway, he says he's never had a negative experience, and you just said you did have one, but it wasn't negative in the sense that it's not something you couldn't handle. You wanted out. You asked for
I asked for help.
Yeshua, and you got back to your body pretty quickly.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like it was unbelievably terrible. It was just bad for very short.
Right, and it's because I've learned, and I would say anyone who wants to astral travel needs to study up on it and what to do, because you need tools, how to maneuver, just like we need tools here, right? And I do remember early on in my experiences, and I've learned that your fears will manifest if they're, if we don't work on them here. And for some reason, I had some kind of something manifest for me where as soon as I'd exit, I was met by these really horrible looking beings. They were just, their features were distorted and they're grabbing at me kind of like the zombies do.
Right.
And so I kept bringing myself back to my body. And it happened maybe 3 times, I believe, when I finally snapped and said, wait a minute, I'm out of body. You can't hurt me. There's nothing you can do. You can't hurt me. I'm out of body. And as soon as I realized that and I faced it, their features changed and they weren't threatening to me anymore. And they were actually kind, or, their features changed to more welcoming type of people.
What did
beings.
they change into?
Well, they were human.
So you're saying they didn't look human at all at the beginning?
They were human, but they were just deformed, scary, deforming, like,
Right.
yeah, like zombies. But
I think
I didn't know about zombies at the time.
I think I've seen something like that here on Earth.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, we may get into that.
But this was 20 years ago. There's all the movies and stuff weren't out about zombies, or I don't watch those kind of movies anyway. But anyway, my point is that I faced it. So if you face it and realize that nothing can hurt you there, then you're able to walk through it. And other than that, there was one lady that was chasing me, trying to shoot me in and out of body experience. I realized, wait a minute, she can't hurt me. And I turned around, told her, you can't hurt me, and then she ran off. So things like that are pretty much the only scariest experiences I've had.
So when you have had negative experiences, you just have to realize that you're invulnerable in that as that being, nothing can hurt you. And once you realize that, then you're good to go.
Yeah. And, I would say 99.999% of the time, this is something you're a fear that's being projected. Probably 100%. This is something within you that hasn't been dealt with, and it's being manifest out, in a projection. And so because we will manifest our fears and our insecurities and things like that in the astral planes. It's just, we don't have this body to hide those things like we do here.
So some people talk about planes of existence beyond the physical, beyond the astral, other planes. Have you ever been to a plane that you were certain it was beyond the astral plane?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, people talk about they say that beyond the astral plane, there's the etheric plane, the mental plane. I don't know the names. I can't recall the names of all these different planes. But if you look at the ECUS materials, they'll give you like 6 or 8 different planes that are planes of duality, and then beyond that, there are a similar number of planes that are non-dualistic that are beyond those. And being as I'm not an expert on all these things, other than I've seen those charts, I can't really speak that that's the truth or not the truth. But I just wondered if you ever gone to a place that you thought was beyond the astral realm, that you were certain that it was, you said the difference between the lower, the middle, and the upper astral planes. And I'm just wondering if you came across any realms that you believed were beyond the astral realms.
I mean, since there's no signposts,
Yeah.
I can't say. I've been in blissful types of experiences, where but it's usually more of emerging than actually.
Oh, you mean like when you're merging with the light on the other side?
Merging with other beings, like like a twin soul or something like that. Yeah, it's more of a merging, like merging with Yeshua, those types of things. But or merging with a light, and the emerging lights, yeah.
So is there a difference between an astral experience out of body and what's on the other, and your NDEs on the other side, other than the fact that the beings you meet, like Yeshua, besides that, putting those aside for the moment, can you um, did you notice any distinct difference between what you experienced in an astral, even if you mentioned the upper astral, compare that with your experience when you're dead on the other side? Is there a difference? Did you notice any distinct difference between those two places or states of being?
No, not really.
No?
Mm-mm.
All right. So they were both just as real as the next.
Mhm. Yeah, they're actually more real than here.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, and I
Yeah.
figured you would too, but I wasn't going to tell you
When
that.
when I was holding Yeshua's hand, and when I've have physical contact, and it feels like physical contact with in the higher planes, I could feel his every line in his hand. He was intuiting to me every single line, every bump, I mean, it was so, there was such a visceral sensitivity, so sensitive. And I equate it to being here is like wearing a glove over our senses compared to there, where, you know, which would be the physical body, obviously, but it's we have that covering over us that can't experience the way we experience in the higher planes. We can tap into all those senses and feel and experience so much more in compared to here. Yeah.
So you teach getting out of the body. How long, with your students, how long does it take for them to become successful?
Everyone is different. You get out what you put into it. Some people are able to, it's usually a 4-week course. It's a 4-week course. And then we communicate, you know, throughout the course with each other. And I do 4 live classes. And so you have to put time into it. You do the exercises and follow the protocol and do the exercises and that type of thing. And if you do that, then you'll be successful. But if you don't, and if you don't pay attention to your dream time and put the work into it, you know, you get out of it what you put into it, just like everything else.
Well, I assume you follow up with your students.
Yeah. All the time.
How big a percentage do you think are highly successful? You don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that question because not everyone stays in contact, and I'm in touch with them on a forum during the course and after the course. I have a forum open to all the course members. So yeah, some of them say, "Oh gosh, yeah, I had an out-of-body experience," and I don't know if they've had one if they don't tell me about it. Right? Yeah. Well, if they're still practicing, I don't know if they don't tell me about it, so I can't say. I mean, a lot of them are successful during the course and right after, or, you know, or during.
Well, Jim Willis says in his book that that he went to the Robert Monroe Institute and he was not successful there.
Most people aren't.
Most people are not.
Most people are not. Yeah.
And you know, he's been highly successful, just he wasn't successful there.
Well, I know, because people think that that's what that course is about, but it's not. The Gateway Voyage, it's not about leaving your body. It's about exploration. And if an out-of-body experience happens, then that's great. But it's not about that. That's not the focus. It's about the focus levels. Recognizing the focus level so you can explore consciousness through the focus levels. And then and that's what Robert Monroe was doing. He just spontaneously started having out-of-body experiences. He was practicing with the hemisync,
Right, right.
Yeah. So
Do you use aids when you do your astral projection or your outer body? Do you use any type
sometimes
of,
I find that I have more success with hemisync and binaural beats. Yeah. If I use them on it, not while I'm listening to it, but if I listen to them on a regular basis, then I am more successful. Yeah.
but you don't, you tend to go out of body in your meditations,
No,
which, no?
no, no. It's during the theta and alpha state.
Oh, so you like try to go to sleep and get in the middle and then go out?
What I do is I do exercises during my meditations, if I'm focusing on it, and I'll do some exercises before I go to sleep. If my goal is to have an out-of-body experience, I do the wake back to bed method. Well, I will get up between 4 and 6 hours, get out of bed, and stay up for a little while, go back to bed to where I'm not sleeping heavily afterwards. And then I do more exercises, listen to hemisync, or I listen to hemisync before I go to bed, listen to hemisync again. And then during my second, after I've done that and have been awake for a while, I would say 80% of the time, 90% of the time, I'll have a conscious out-of-body experience. I just focus on it and do the exercises I need. So it's usually early in the morning. Sometimes during the night I might have one and I'm, out, but it's usually when I focus on it. What?
No, I'm not. I don't have any particular thought. I just, I have, like I said, I got halfway out of my body one time and it scared me pretty bad. And I don't think I've felt myself coming back into my body, but I don't remember actually being out of my body ever, where I was really out.
Yeah, that's the biggest deterrent. And that's why I say to read books about it and study about it so that you know what to expect and work on that and work on working through fears. So that's, I would say it's probably the one of the biggest things we can do for our spiritual development is to remember how to explore our multidimensional self.
Is there anything? We've almost reached 2 hours, and I'm not ready to end, nor am I ready to extend. I'm very open to what feels right for you. If you're tired, we can end it. If you feel the need to talk or desire to talk about other things, we can keep going. It's up to, what do you feel like doing?
Well, I'm not tired, but I do need to get up and take care of my dog and my boyfriend.
Sure.
So
sure, you got your life, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me end
But
it.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being on the show. And
Thank you
if you ever have a desire to come back and repeat, you're always welcome.
Sure.
And thank you very much. And I will go ahead and stop.